And I believe we are live. If anybody is in the comments, hey, drop me a comment. Let me know that you hear me okay. It is that time of year, folks. The hoodies have come out. Pumpkin spice has invaded everything holy. It is getting colder and spookier, and it's time to read some good horror books, some disturbing books. So, I just had an impromptu live. So I'm going out here live to let's talk some horror books, and I'm hoping to have a few booktubers join me. I have sent Severard and Glatka out there to kidnap some booktubers, and from what I hear, they have gotten them, and Glatka's working them over right now. And we're going to bring them on, and they're going to discuss their favorite horror books with you guys that they either have read this year or that they have ever read. So while we wait for some people to let me know that we are good to go, I guess I'll just start talking. So yeah, I haven't been out on the tube much. I did some social distancing and just laid back, enjoyed some reading, getting used to audiobooks, and yeah, I've read a lot of good things lately, man. I was going to I ran into this genre, weird fiction. Now, I had no idea. All I knew was grimdark, and I think that was it, right? And at least for my subgenres that I enjoy. And I ran into weird fiction, and man, I've been enjoying some things in that genre. They have this new weird, which that genre has been placed on the shoulders of China Mieville and as well as Vandermeer, I believe. Of course, they do not like tags. Who likes tags? Celebrity, thank
What up?
you for joining us. How are you today?
Good. How about you?
Good, man. I'm doing good. I'm good. We have Chadia has just joined us in the comments as
What up,
well. Welcome,
Shadia?
Chadia. What is your how is your day going, buddy?
Not too bad. I just woke up from a nap, so pretty good
That's
actually.
that's amazing. That's amazing. Naps are fucking amazing, right?
Yeah. And now, yeah, after this, I prep to take my kids to a Halloween party. So
Okay. We did a trunk or treat not too long ago. My little one was somebody from Fortnite. I don't know who it was, but it worked, and we got candy out of it. So I was,
exactly.
win-win.
And there's that dad candy tax, right? So
Yes, yes. But make sure that nothing is looks like it's been messed with, So
exactly. Yeah. Make sure there's no fentanyl, no
yeah,
razor blades.
fentanyl in there. Yeah, like actually that'd be great. That'd be a lot of money. Hey, thanks. Thanks for the fentanyl. We appreciate it. You just lost a lot of money, buddy. But anyway, off of the fentanyl jokes. and, yeah, you got to take the dad tax. It's really big. My dad did it to me for the 2 years that he had me. He always took freaking. He was a Baby Ruth guy. He liked the Baby Ruths, so he jacked my Baby Ruths, which is okay. They kind of faded out, which is an interesting topic. Is there a candy that has faded out that you just wish came back, or that you wish you saw more of?
Warheads.
Warheads. Those were the really sour ones,
Yeah, the
right?
really sour ones. Yeah,
Oh,
those
they
were
would like
my favorites during
burn
Halloween.
holes in your tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I remember how horrible warheads were.
Oh, me and my sister, we loved them. That's all we wanted. So,
Hmm.
and then we would,
Oh,
and then we just take them and we just stare into each other's eyes until one of us broke.
yeah, it's or teared up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was so sour. Definitely. I know there used to be like whatchamacallits. I haven't seen
Oh
whatchamacallits
yeah.
around. Fifth Avenues. There's some other ones out there that have slowly declined and just have disappeared. The bullies like Snickers and peanut butter cups have just taken over the scene, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
anything good
thought,
you've reading lately?
I have been reading more this month. Ever since I started Dead House Gates, like I had to just solely dedicate my time to that because it was so
It's
dense.
a it's a doorstop, man. Yes, it is.
But after I finished it, I was like, I'm gonna read just some short 300-page horror books,
Hmm.
and they've been some hits and misses, I'd say. Some I really liked, and some I really did not like. So
All
one
right,
in
just
particular,
just give me one you did not like. You don't have to
um,
explain why if you want to save it for something.
the controversial one,
The controversial one. That's what I want. Bring it out. Bring out the guns.
everyone on like Book Talk and Bookstagram,
Uh-huh.
I keep seeing The Troop by Nick Cutter.
Yes, yeah. I
Uh,
somebody spot a horror author said something nice about him or something.
mhm.
I think it was like Stephen King said he was the next somebody.
Yeah, I think
Anyway, I'm
I
sorry.
could see that. And, like, I think in terms of style and, like, writing chops, I think Nick Cutter's got it.
Mhm.
I did not like The Troop, though, for probably the most psychotic reason possible. Um,
Okay.
but basic do you know
Leave
anything?
us on a cliffhanger. Did you drop a video on it yet? I
I haven't
didn't.
dropped a video on it yet. I probably won't get
All
around
right.
to dropping a video on it, except, like, mentioning it in a TBR.
Okay.
I don't really like talking about books I didn't like all that much.
I guess so I am because I'm like I know I mentioned this a lot recently becoming a reader and reading a lot. And it's just my tastes are changing. I'm learning things as I'm going, and it's good for me to know the things I didn't like. So
Mhm.
I would say that at least mention those, but don't trash a book. This is obviously a topic that most people bring up. I never call a book trash. I don't care how bad it
Mhm.
was, who they ripped off. It's a strong word. But there are ways that you can just say why it wasn't for you, and that's what I'm finding. I'm finding a lot of shit is not for me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
And I won't even say for Nick Cutter in that book in particular, it's not even so much that I didn't like the content or that I didn't think it was good. I think what upset me about that book was it didn't lean enough into what I thought was good about it. Um, the basic premise is it's this Boy Scout troop who's from Canada and they're on Falstaff Island, which is this little island off the coast.
Mhm.
They're on a camping trip, and this seemingly homeless person just wanders out of the woods, and they're ravenously hungry. Um, and without getting too spoilery, whatever is making him hungry is infectious. Um, and to me, I was like, kids alone on an island with an infectious disease that makes them ravenously hungry. I was expecting a little cannibalism.
I'm all in on cannibalism.
Yeah,
I was
me
about
too.
to write the book for you in my head when you gave me the premise, and you're
uh,
gonna tell if you're gonna tell me there is no cannibalism in this. I'm gonna be pretty
there's
disappointed.
a disappointing amount of
Amount, okay.
cannibalism.
You wanted a little more. You
uh,
wanted to know what the ingredients that went into the stew they were making. You wanted a lot more
Yeah,
in-depth
a
cannibalism.
lot more. I towards the end, it was, like, starting to, and then just didn't. So, I felt like it was priming us for cannibalism and just never delivered on it, which was a
Uh-huh.
shame because Nick Cutter's, like, gross scenes were phenomenal.
Okay.
I just wish there were more of them and
I
that they
like
got
me a
grosser.
good gross scene. I like me a good gross scene.
Mhm.
So
Um,
go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, like, I'm kind of I would say my taste in horror leans more to, like, the literary horror side, so, like, I don't know what that means even, but I kind of
That
like
be like Anne Rice?
more like it's hard to say. I like horror with like clear themes, and I like it
Okay.
when horror explores things like mental trauma, drug addiction, so on and so forth. Something
Yes.
where there's like
Mhm.
a really deeply personal thing tied into it.
Yes. Mhm.
Um, but that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate a good amount of body horror. So yeah, so that's where I'm psyched on. Is like it wasn't gross enough, and like it wasn't really about anything.
I'm learning that I like the strange.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the weird, the strange. That's what seems to be of interest to me of late. I've read some China Mieville, and he just throws curveballs and for strikes. He just lands, and it's just I've been very interested in. And with Mieville, at least in Perdido Street Station, there are definite horror elements found within that book. I took another recommendation from a booktuber from Baron Brain on Books. I had a free credit for Audible, and I hit him up. I'm like, dude, just give me something good, give me something weird, give me something off the wall. And he recommended Weave World by Clive Barker, and it's exceptional as well. I really dug that book.
Yeah, I've been meaning to get into Mieville as well, and I just haven't. Yeah, I feel like I'm so torn between reading fantasy and reading horror. I just don't feel like I ever get to anything.
I love when the two are combined. I have to
Mm-hmm.
say that's when then you get me. But all right, so back to an old topic. Yes, bottle caps have definitely not been found on the candy shelves in a long time.
Yeah.
Laura, hey, how you doing?
What up, Laura?
Buying a nightlight in my 50s, and keep doing whatever you're doing to keep looking so young. I am 45. Did I say 50s? I said 40s, I think, in the comment. I am 44. No, I'm 44. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, okay? Because I really like four. I don't know why the odd numbers really suck. Like 27, I remember hitting 27. Like this fucking sucks. 35. Ah, fucking 35 is horrible. And it seems like 44, I was like, that just rolls off my tongue. 45, man, you're 5 years from 50. As you can see, I've been overthinking my age lately. All right. Hey, Jared, what's up from the Fantasy Thinker? Uh, do we have a writer in our
Oh, thank you,
midst as
Laura.
well? Yes, yes. Literary horror. T. King Fisher. I've seen some audio books from T. King Fisher. The most popular one, I believe. I want to give that a try. It's all these audiobooks I'm getting are free at my library. One of the big reasons I haven't put out a video is because I got into Libby, and I get all these free audiobooks. And when I first got it, I only tapped into like the smallest ice cube of books. And then I found out that I could get access to Philadelphia's public libraries. And all of a sudden the floodgates opened, and I had like 7,000 audiobooks to look through and books to look through to see if, I wanted. So I've been in the void for months. If you wonder why I haven't, put out a video, I have gone down the rabbit hole. And speaking of rabbit hole, I think there is a rabbit on one of this guy's books, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
you're probably thinking what moves the dead.
Is that Lee Bardugo? Maybe I'm thinking. Is that Lee Bardugo?
Lee, is it Bardugo? Is that how you say it? I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, her new one, I think it's Hellbent, has a rabbit on it.
Yes, has like this weird bunny on it. T. King
Hmm.
Fisher. What's that cover? It does stick out in my head.
They have
Green
one, or she has
cover.
one. It's What Moves the Dead. It's
What
got like a rabbit that's like splayed open.
Yes, okay. So yeah, they both have rabbits. Weird looking rabbits on the covers.
What Moves the Dead is very, very good.
Okay.
It's
Bet.
a
Thank
it's a
you. 'Cause I
modern
will
retelling
definitely look
of or it's a modern retelling of the fall of the House of Usher, with mushrooms. It's very good, very moody, gross at the end.
I love that.
Probably one of my favorite books of the year. So, but oddly enough, T. Kingfisher is simultaneously one of my favorite reads of the year, and then one of my more disappointing reads of the year. Because I just read her one, A House with Good Bones. It just came out like 2 months ago, and it was a little she does slow burns really well, but this one took a little too long to get going. And I just felt like the payoff was kind of predictable and not all that worth it.
Yeah, I haven't been, I've been looking for standalones.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously I haven't been looking for a slow burn. Excuse me. I
I
just, I'm sorry. I started off reading so much, so much fantasy.
mm-hmm.
That's when I started. It was, series, First Law, Oathbringer, uh, the girl who throws coins, Mistborn, right? So it was all these major. So I'm dying for standalones these days, and horror has a lot to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm finding is a lot of pretty good shit to offer. That
Mm-hmm.
also you can get those elements of fantasy that I love the most, at least.
Mm-hmm. No, I love horror.
Mhm. Yeah, this so when I did Laura, if you're still with us, when I looked up weird fiction, because it is a genre started by H.P. Lovecraft, I believe. You can throw Poe in there. And then they have this new weird fiction where they're throwing Mieville and Vandermeer and some other, authors that are really providing some off the wall shit. Um, but I read A Spear That Cuts Through Water, and I felt that it really vibed with that new weird fiction. Um, I thought that it could have fit in that genre perfectly, and probably one of I'm juggling between two books between the best of the year, and I would say A Spear That Cuts Through Water is right there with, of course, Baker, um, and The White Luck Warrior.
If you're into Lovecraftian horror, an author I recommend is John Horner Jacobs.
Mhm.
I specifically recommend his book, A Lush and Seething Hell, which is a fucking banger title.
Yeah, that
Uh,
does sound good.
just right off the bat. Unfortunately, the title has nothing to do with the actual work because it's two novellas. But I very much recommend the second novella in that, which is My Heart Struck Sorrow, because it's got a really interesting premise. It's super Lovecraftian and it is dark.
So that's when I started researching this weird fiction thing, because I did run into a video that mentioned, Vandermeer and Mieville. And of course, they mentioned Lovecraft. And this is the unfortunate thing about being a booktuber, because at first you're like, let me just read this and cool. But then you're like, if you're a booktuber, you're like, let me look the author up. Then you look up Lovecraft, and you're like, shit, I
Yeah.
shouldn't look this fucker up, man, because
hmm
this is gonna mess up what I think about his writing, which it stinks. You really gotta separate yourself, and then you're like, damn, why I could have just left it as is, not looked into my man, and just took his works for what it was.
Yeah, the struggle with Lovecraft too, though, is like, yeah, he's like profoundly racist even for the time
Yes,
period.
but yeah, for that.
What makes it hard for him though, because like part of you could be like, yeah, that's how white people were at the time, but it's so transparently in his fiction, and a lot of times,
Yeah, yeah, for
there's a
sure.
few like I think At the Mountains of Madness is not racist. I got really into Lovecraft in high school, um,
I think
but
no, I started the Call of Cthulhu. So because I've kind of been getting into audio books because I'm able to work and listen now. It's free, the Call of Cthulhu on YouTube. So I put that on, and it drew me in, but you could definitely feel the racism within the
mhm.
writing. For sure.
Yeah, so that's the struggle with him is like it's so embedded in the
Yeah.
way he writes. I think is horror at is it Horror of Dunwich or one of them is just very flagrantly anti-immigrant.
Hmm.
um, so yeah, but on a weird segue of that, so Lovecraft, obviously racist, kind of gives weird and Lovecraftian fiction kind of like a racist roots.
Hmm.
But a book that kind of flips that on its head is Lovecraft Country by Matt Ruff. Have you read that?
No. Mm-mm.
No. So Matt Ruff did
I
an.
love I like that title. That's it. Lovecraft Country.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It follows. It's almost a collection of short stories because like they're not entirely connected, but they do tell an overarching story. About this black family in the 1950s America. And so it's a mix of kind of the Green Book culture. I don't know if you know anything about that.
Well,
But
like the
it's
movie.
basically,
I don't know if that's what you're referring to. Green Book culture. Is that what you said?
yeah, I culture is probably the wrong word, but Green Books were books written by black people at the time, basically saying like, hey, here's the towns that are safe to go to, and here's the ones to avoid.
Okay. Didn't they just read that there was a movie about
Yeah,
this,
there's
right?
a movie
Called
called Green
Green
Book that
Book.
just came out.
Yeah, but I don't know if they put that book in the. Anyway, okay, go ahead. Yep.
Um, but anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. It's
Don't worry.
about 1950s, very much Jim Crow era America, and this black family kind of dealing with Lovecraftian horrors, very much tied to the racism of the time. So the metaphor for like the weird horrors is no longer about the scary immigrants, but the scary people who run the country. So it's a nice inversion of where that
Well,
genre.
that sounds very contemporary,
Mm-hmm.
actually.
It's
If you
it's
live
very good.
in America,
Yeah.
in my
But
opinion, in my opinion.
it's very good. It's gut wrenching. But yeah, but I highly recommend that. And they just made an HBO show on it not that long ago. I think 2 years ago.
Wait, what was it called again?
Lovecraft Country.
Okay, yeah. Jared just said that. Okay, season one was a show. It's a cool show. I might have to. So today, before I came on, I I'm trying to find something that, my wife and I could watch. It's a lazy day here. It's cold, it's kind of rainy. And I ran into The Expanse. And I've heard about the books and things like that. And I'm like, all right, let's check this out. And here we are 4 hours later, and I had to start the stream, and she's going on without me, right? That's a no, that's a flag, right? Isn't that like she should know better, or know that she's gonna have to start over from where I left off.
Mm.
Mhm.
And The Expanse is so good. Like it's such a good TV show.
All right, I really am liking what I was seeing
Yeah,
as of.
I haven't read the books, but I've seen the
Okay.
first 3 seasons of The Expanse. So, and I think at that point they moved over to Amazon, and I have Amazon at the time. And uh, but yeah, it's a good show, isn't it?
Yeah, it was very. I think I was 3 episodes in, and then I had to start setting up for
Yeah,
everything today.
yeah. I don't get too much TV time anymore.
No,
And,
that's yeah. I-
and when I do, I feel like I can't. I don't know if it's my ADHD or what, but like I have a hard time like sitting through like an hour of television or a movie anymore. So I sit, I'm like, I'm gonna go do something.
It has to really grab me.
Hmm.
Um, I'm very, I'm starting to learn that my tastes in reading are very similar to everything else. And like I hate country music, but I like me a few country people. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
Chris Stapleton or something. So I hate romance, but if it's done well, like then I'll like the book. And it's just been it's just interesting to see that my taste in movies and stuff like that is very similar than what I'm gonna like in books as well as music. It all blends together actually very well. I don't know. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm saying. Anyway, so um, what are some horror books that you would recommend for people to read this year?
That came out this year or
I
just
would
in
say
general?
no. There's just some. You know what? This is a. You know what? Give me a book that you should not. If you were if you're going to be in the horror genre, if you are checking out the horror genre and you want a book that's just going to blow you away and a standalone, this is the one that you should read this spooky season.
Okay. Well, I'd have to. I'm gonna have to broadly recommend Andy Davidson. Uh, which book I recommend by him depends largely on what you want, I'd say, because
Hmm.
all three of his books are very good, but they are very distinct from each other. My personal favorite is The Boatman's Daughter, which I would describe more as a dark fantasy novel than a
Yeah.
horror, because like there's maybe two scenes that are horrific. But that is about a woman living in the swamps of Alabama, and she's a drug runner for this drug dealing pastor and his gang. And the day her father died, like 20 years ago, she finds this kind of fish person
Hmm.
baby. So it's a baby, but has gills and needs water to breathe. So she's been raising this kid in the swamps while she's this drug runner, and then that gets connected to the pastor, and like it's a great book.
Holy
Um,
shit, that sounds great.
Beautiful, dark. Andy Davidson has incredible writing.
Uh,
It is one of my favorite books ever. When I read it when it first came out, and I finished it, and my wife was sitting next to me, and she's like, "I was like, oh, you finished the book? How do you feel about it?" I was like, "I think I'm gonna quit writing because there is absolutely no way I could write a book like this."
yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, no,
I
it's
love the cover. I looked it up here. We have at least from what I see, you said the boatman's daughter, right?
mhm.
All right. So
So yeah, so the red cover with the guy floating and the tree growing out of his head.
yeah, no, I'm actually looking at this black cover. Maybe that's, it has I don't know, like a wine bottle that turns into a cross, but the cross is a femur. It's all black with red, but I think I see the one that
Oh, I haven't
you were
seen this one. I like that cover too.
That's pretty, right? But now, you know what? I think I like the one that you were discussing as well here with the things growing out of this guy's head. No, that's great. This is an orange cover. It's what do they call that type of art? Like just a black on color, like a stencil or something. It's a
Mhm,
stencil of a man with like trees growing out of its head. It's all orange and the stencil, the outline is black. It's gorgeous.
mhm. So Boatman's Daughter, highly, highly recommended. Great literary dark
I
fantasy.
just want to make sure I write this shit down.
If you're looking for something
That sounds
more,
great, Boatman's daughter.
yeah, if you
A
based on
drug
what I know of what
runner
you
with
need.
with a gill baby. Come on, like please, who thinks of this? That's what I love. I'm like, give me something that I'm just like, wow, I've never experienced something like this. But anyway,
Yeah, love The Boatman's Daughter. If you're looking for something more like Stephen King, I'd recommend his book In the Valley of the Sun, which takes place in the 1980s in Nevada, I think. I don't remember. It's some Southwest
mhm.
state. But it follows a man who is a serial killer. Um, he preys on women. And I'm going to tell you this because it happens in the first chapter of the book, so I don't really consider it a spoiler. But one of the women he tries to lure is a vampire, and she enthralls him. And then he is trying to survive that while also working at a hotel for this wife or this single mom and her son, and him trying to resist the urge to feed on them. And then it just goes from there.
In the
Off the
Valley of
rails
the Sun, correct?
in the Valley of the Sun.
Another badass cover.
A banger cover. I love that's
Yeah,
the first one I
we got
read.
a skull here with a cowboy hat. There's blood coming out of the skull. If you get inside the dark eyes, each is different, but one's like a sunset of a plane. It's a pretty dope cover.
Yeah,
Trust
it's a
me,
great
guys.
cover. That was the first book I read by him. I bought it exclusively because of the cover.
Yeah,
And haven't regretted it
that
since.
would have got me too. Hmm.
He has a um again, Andy Davidson's prose is just exceptional. At one point in the Valley of the Sun, he describes he's by a train tracks as the train is going by, and he describes the train wheels. That's not what they're called, but you know what I'm talking about. He
Hmm.
describes it as like a knife punching holes in the night.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, I
Very,
love. He's got these
very
weird
descriptive.
serial killer metaphors. It's incredible.
Hey, Colin, wishing you and your daughter the best. Hope she feels
Oh
better.
yeah, hope she gets well.
Hmm. Um, Also, it is strep, so has been confirmed. And we're all wishing your daughter the best, Colin, for sure.
Yeah, and hope you guys don't get it or at least recover quickly from it. So
Definitely.
it's that time of year though. So
It is, man. It's pumpkin spice everything. I think I saw at Outback a pumpkin spice fillet for frickin' $12.99. I am
what?
totally joking about that. Yeah, there's
You had me.
I did. Did I?
Yeah, I was like, you know what? I'm not even gonna doubt it at this point.
There's pumpkin spice vapes down at my corner bodega. Yeah, they're just overdoing it. You know what I mean? But um, I guess sticking with the horror books, that seems to be your genre. Would I be correct in saying that, right?
Yeah, I would say I primarily read horror and fantasy. Um, I I think I go through phases where I get like really intensely into one, and that's all I read for a little bit. And I'm like, all right, I'm bored with this. I'm gonna really intensely read another genre until I get bored with it. But I think if I had to choose, I'm definitely more versed in horror than I am fantasy. So, but I also feel like I haven't read enough of either. So,
I think everybody feels that way. I think
mhm.
that's why I always come on here and explain that I've only had 4 years of reading, but here's my opinion. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, there is a read along for Imaginary Friend. I actually put that on hold at my library. I'm waiting on to see. I might jump on that. I believe that has started already.
I actually just started it yesterday.
Yesterday,
Yeah, I'm about
I might
70
even
pages into
see
it.
if I can secure that from my library.
I'm I'm really liking it so far. It is my jam.
Mhm. And so I would say I had to. So I jumped into Stephen King finally.
Hmm.
But everybody you would think I jumped into a horror book, but I did not. I jumped into the Dark Tower series,
Okay.
and I have now read the first two. Um, Vastly different writing style, you know, they both were just so different. It's in my opinion, but they're so good.
Yeah.
Have you
Well, the
read the
Gunslinger.
Dark Tower?
Sorry, what?
Have you read the Dark Tower?
I have read the Gunslinger,
Okay.
but I have not committed to the Dark Tower just yet. Part of it's because I'm uh crazy. I don't know, but I'm like I want to read the Dark Tower, but I need to make sure I get every single reference on the first pass. So I need to make sure I know every single book this series references.
Oh, that's still. I had no idea that that is a multiverse that is connected.
Yeah, so most of Stephen King's books are in this kind of like collected universe.
It's kind of like a Sanderson thing, huh?
Mm-hmm.
He was like, okay. I
So yeah, and it's not very direct or clear all the time. As far as I understand, obviously I haven't read The Dark Tower, but as I understand it, it's not always clear how the connections are. But if you've read them, you'll know.
how many Stephen King books have you read?
I have probably read 15 or 20.
Okay.
Which is
How about the Bachman, um, the Walk,
oh, I have not read any of the Bachman books. So I have a couple of them, but I have not read them yet. So I'm actually thinking about starting. Part of me is thinking about just starting over. I'm like, I might read King in publication order. So, but I've read Carrie, Salem's Lot, The Shining, Doctor Sleep, the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, The Outsider, Revival, Cujo, It. A couple of his short story collections, so Everything's Eventual and Hearts in Atlantis. So yeah, I had 15, I think. So
So as of now, I think it's called The Long Walk. That's the Bachman one. That was the first one I've read of King.
That's the one about the competition where they have to walk down the road, right?
Yes.
Yeah, wanted to read it. Sounds great.
It was okay. It was okay. It's the writing was I enjoyed the writing. I just didn't enjoy really the character work. But I hear King is an excellent character writer. I just didn't get it out of that. I enjoyed the premise, everything, but there were certain things that just bothered me within the story. Um, but then I went on to the Dark Tower, and that atmosphere that he creates, and this world that is just something, again, this weird type fiction that blends so many genres. When you open that Dark Tower series, we're here in a Western dystopian magical world. I mean, can you throw more shit in there? They do. With like lobstrosities and a multiverse and things like that. The second book, uh, The Drawing of Three, that's up there as one of my favorite books, most entertaining books that I have read this year for sure.
Yeah, I really want to get to it. So it's probably gonna be a post Malazan thing. So
all right. So
I would think of the King books I have read, two immediately jump to the top as favorites, with possibly a third. Two of them are universally not well liked by King fans.
I was gonna say, okay, is one of them Salem's Lot, because that's the one that I've decided to read next on his repertoire.
One of them is not Salem's Lot. Salem's Lot is actually on more towards the bottom for me.
Really? Okay,
Yeah,
that's an unpopular opinion from what I've heard.
Yeah,
wow. Okay.
I have a lot of popular Stephen King opinions. I think a lot of his newer stuff is better than his older stuff. Salem's Lot for me was so here's the compliment I have for Salem's Lot. It really shows what King is good at, which is doing side character work. Because I really enjoyed every single moment of that book that had nothing to do with the main character or what was actually going on.
I think you know what? In The Drawing of Three, you are absolutely correct, because I believe that for that book as well. That the secondary characters is who I was interested in rather than my main protagonist.
And that's why I think King is at his best when he has these kind of like ensemble things going on. So like it is an incredible book. It is also incredibly, it goes down all kinds of tangents and rabbit holes, and that's when the book is at its best. So
Yeah.
um so that's my compliment to Salem's Lot. The book itself is so shockingly obvious, and it's a vampire story, and I don't feel like he really does anything to make it unique or interesting.
Okay. All right.
Um,
I like
but
that opinion.
but excellent side character work.
Within the book. Okay. And
And
I
but
mean, how about, world building? Apparently he does a small town very well, and I have yet to. So again, with this, me learning my tastes over here, I love an entire made up world.
mhm.
Um, I'm not sure if I don't want to spoil anything in the. Yeah, you've read um, The Dark Tower, correct? The first book in
I
the
read
Dark
the
Tower.
gun right or the
The gun,
gunslinger, yeah.
yeah, the gunslinger, and the kid that shows up within it
Mhm.
from our world, right?
Mhm.
So it's things like that that I'm finding in writing that I dislike, that just throw me off a little bit. And here's what I mean. I love this. I feel I enjoy writing more when I'm in an entirely new world, rather and let me explain. So in the gunslinger, you start off in this entire new world, and then they throw something real from our world, and it irks me a little bit. So I
Mhm.
find that I enjoy, things more that are, that don't remind me of anything from our, universe.
Mhm.
I love the made up stuff, and this happens in a lot of books where, I think I'm in this made up world, and they'll throw something, some pop culture reference from our world, and it'll just fuck me up, and I'll just be like, oh, you know, I don't know what it is. I enjoy something that is completely made up. And if you throw, something that I'm familiar with, it sometimes throws me off a little bit.
Mhm. No, I definitely agree in the sense of like if I'm expecting a secondary world setting, I don't really want that connection.
Hmm.
Um, Oddly enough, a lot of people don't like the gunslinger. It really worked for me.
I thought it was
Um,
great. Yeah, I thought didn't really. Yeah, I love the world building, the atmosphere that he did, that he made. The imagine. I enjoyed all of that. And the dialogue was very well done, and the dream sequences I thought were very well done. I enjoyed. I've been doing a lot of reading with dream sequences lately, and I really enjoy it because I'm that type of reader that kind of likes to. I like to get that whole picture of what the author is trying to express, and when you get dream sequences, it makes it harder,
mhm.
because this is something completely new. We're not talking about a house or a street.
No, I'm right there with you. As Laura kind of alluded to, I'm a writer, so I think a lot about writing, and I've read writing advice online and stuff. And like a big taboo in the writing community is not so much writing dream sequences, but definitely relying on them or opening with them.
It's
I
taboo, or has it become like overused? Do
mm,
you what
I
do
think
you
it's probably one of those things where like it's so overdone that people are
huh,
like, yeah, just don't do it at all.
right.
I'm on the hard disagree side of that. Make the whole book a dream sequence.
Fucking right. I love that.
Love it. Love
Have
opening with
I'm
dreams.
sorry. Have you read A Spear That Cuts Through Water yet?
I haven't read A Spear That Cuts Through
Oh,
Water
dude,
yet,
you
so
need you need to read it. I mean, if you like Stephen King's writing, this Jimenez, I don't know if you remind. It's just very. Would you wouldn't call King poetic, but at certain times, I do feel he does. Is a little. He can be flowery here and there.
mhm.
And I thought Simon Jimenez, he just was a gorgeous writer. Some of it did remind me of King. But A Spear That Cuts Through Water, you should definitely try to read that book when you have a moment.
Yeah, I've been wanting to read it. So, and like that's a standalone, right? So,
Yeah, yeah. It's just there was this cool sequence, and I don't think I'll give much away, but maybe I can make it this happen or something. Um, but it's very so. What's the movie where the grandpa's telling the kid the story? It's Princess Bride, right?
mm-hmm.
All right, so it starts off like that, right? Where you have this grandmother and she's telling this child this story about an empire, and it's just so cool. And she's like telling the kid to roll her cigarettes for her and stuff, and and she takes a big pull of the cigarette. She's telling her this story about this inverted theater, where dancers come to perform this whatever, right? And he rolls the cigarette for his grandma. He hands it to her. He's wiping the frickin' tobacco. He's a little kid. He's like 3, wiping the tobacco off his lips, And she's taking the pull about to tell him the whole story. Like, and she does that, and he moves into the inverted theater. And it was just so well done that she's just sitting there talking, and he takes a pull of the cigarette and she blows it in the little child's face, and the child wakes up in the inverted theater with the play going on. It was just so well done.
Yeah.
I could talk about A Spear That Cuts Through Water probably for days, and I will. That guy is an auto buy author for me, Simon Jimenez. Is there an auto buy horror author for you? Other than obviously, I think everybody would want a King book that comes out, but somebody, and other than the guy that you mentioned, I believe, what was it, Andy Davidson?
Andy Davidson.
Mhm.
Yeah. Another auto buy.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've got a couple. Probably from here on, and this is in the context like I read everything on Kindle, so it's a Kindle buy for me.
Mhm.
I'm thinking about collecting books again at some point, but not right now. But auto buys for me would have to be hey Usman.
Hey, Usman, if you're down to come join the links up in our Discord, buddy. I'd love to have you, man.
What?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. But some auto buys for me would be Kirsten White. She wrote the book Hide, and then she just came out with Mr. Magic this year, which I have.
That's in my library. It has like a VCR on it or something. The
Like an
cover,
old like CRTV.
a TV. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have quibbles with that book, but thematically, it struck really close to home for me.
Okay.
And this doesn't give anything away about the book because it has nothing to do with it. But I think it would be valuable knowing this going into it, reading it, because she said she wrote this book primarily about her processing her feelings about leaving the Mormon church.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very apparent in the themes and like what the characters are going through. And it's really good in that context. I don't particularly like any of the characters, and it didn't get too horrific enough for me. But I went to it expecting Hyde, and it's very different than Hyde. But Hyde's a great book too.
Awesome.
But she's an auto buy for me because I feel like what I really like about her is like she's just very clear about what she's trying to make something about. And I love we were just talking about Dream Sequences. I love it being ethereal. I love trying to unravel what a story is about.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't like things to be overly dense or obtuse about what it's trying to convey, especially if there's like a theme, like you're trying to say this is about something. I don't want to have to read it 3 times to really parse that apart. So Kirsten White is just very clear. Hyde has a very clear theme that is hilarious once you kind of get to the end of it.
Hold on, I'm getting a call from Glatka, and he said that I have 2 more booktubers that I kidnapped earlier today. They are ready to confess their favorite horror books,
And why don't we bring him on out, okay? Hey, welcome, welcome. How are we today?
What's up, Dan?
Hey.
Carlos,
Thanks
Yolanda,
for having
how's
us
it
on.
going? Oh, it was my pleasure. Thanks for coming on.
It's going good. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Good. Good. What I need to know other than the horror books, screw the horror books. How was dinner?
Dinner was fine. Dinner was okay. I bought a new pizza tray for the oven, so just got some oven pizzas. They were fine.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Say that again. Just to use a better face, okay? Say they were fine.
They were fine.
That works. Okay. All right. We're
Cool.
good. All right.
Yeah.
Got it. Uh-huh. All right. Good. We got it. Excellent.
So what are we talking? Horror books?
Yeah, I mean, so I think we're just, this is general horror, deranged, sick, something that's going to keep you up at nights. Like Blood Meridian.
Haven't read Blood Meridian yet.
No, it's not. It's not enjoyable.
I think you could make an argument that that's a horror book for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. The Comanche raid in the beginning of the book is probably some of the best horror I've ever read in my life.
Yeah.
There is if anybody does read Blood Meridian, and I'm talking with a bunch of people that have probably spent a full year on BookTube just scrolling through shit. There is a audiobook of the audiobook of that Comanche raid. Go check it out. It is done so well. It's done with a rhythm, and the way the guy makes the words come to life and things. It is so cool. Look up the Comanche raid
Cool.
on YouTube. I wish I could find the video. I would link it, but it's so cool to watch it.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look at that.
Will Blood Meridian traumatize me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, I think it could. There's it's just it'll keep you thinking about stuff. I
Okay,
believe.
it's going on the list then.
I think the biggest argument is author intent, and I don't think anybody, and he didn't give you guys shit. So you're gonna sit there and argue about what this book, why he wrote this book for decades.
Yeah.
People have different feelings on the judge and different feelings on what it's about, and that epilogue. It's
I also think, like, speaking of horror, a lot of horror books are to me, more surreal than scary. And Blood Meridian is surreal, especially the ending. No spoilers, but that ending is very surreal. It feels otherworldly and horrifying, but also kind of funny. I found it like a bit funny, to be honest. And I
yeah,
think
it could be absurdist. So
Yeah.
the end when the music was going off, I'm seeing these drunk ass cowboys, getting all into this music, kind of
Yeah.
absurd, like, and
Yeah.
he's trying to have this conversation with the boy who was the kid who has become the man. He's talking to this guy, this man, and it's very absurdist. And there is a animal that is on stage, performing
Yeah.
for people. It is, but it's just an excellent scene, and probably a scene that just replays up here constantly.
Oh, for sure. It's the one scene that I'm going to remember from the book. There's a couple of scenes that I'll remember from the book. There's one where they're like around a campfire with, I think it's a Native American woman doing magic tricks.
It was I believe a Mexican woman.
Mexican woman, right? Yeah.
Believe so. I believe they were a traveling trope.
Yes. And the judge at one point seems to walk through the fire to go towards her. I will always remember that scene. Just the feel of it. It's really cool. I think, yeah, that's a fucking horror book. That is
I
totally a horror.
really wanted more from that scene. I felt the tension,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't get the release from that scene.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
I get that.
With the cards you were saying, right? And
Yeah.
Glant, and I thought Glant was gonna kill that dude. Anyway, I don't want to talk about a book. I don't know if everybody's already read it, but have you guys read anything horror, scary, that you would like to recommend to the three people that are watching?
Actually, yeah. I think I've read a couple of spooky season books so far this year. I wasn't really planning it necessarily, but just kind of happened. But my favorite by far is a 40-page short story by George R. R. Martin that everybody looking for a good spooky season read should check out. It's called Sand Kings, and you can find it online if you Google it for free. And it's also in his collection Dream Songs, I think.
Yep.
And it's a sci-fi horror story. You can read it in like an hour and a half, depending on your pace. And I think the less you know about it going in, the better. But it is an amazing short story. One of the best short stories I've ever read. Really creepy.
It's
I was
chilling.
itching. Yeah, it's really, really good.
That is a freaking great recommendation.
Yeah, that
Great
sounds awesome.
recommendation.
It's got one hell of an ending as well.
Yeah, it proves that he can do endings, which is good to know for
Yeah.
taste.
If we ever get to that ending.
Yeah, if we get there, it'll be good.
Yeah.
How
I
about you?
I think my favorite horror book ever is still Pet Sematary. There's yet to be a book that has unsettled me more than Pet Sematary, and I read it a long time ago. But one recent one maybe that I enjoyed that has stuck with me actually is The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher.
That's on my list.
This we
Yeah.
were discussing earlier. I think I saw those books and was looking for recommendations, and I think somebody brought that up. Mhm.
Yeah, it's really good. It's not I have my problems with it, but there is enough description of shit that's surreal and out of this world, but also horrifying. So it's kind of about this woman who is looking after a sort of a natural history museum, I think it is, that belonged to her uncle. And she finds a portal to a sort of middle realm, like a realm in between realms. And she comes out into it, and it's full of, like, I don't remember what it is, trees. Anyway, and each tree is a doorway to another world. But it's not all cozy fantasy, like, oh my god, it's a doorway to another world. No, you don't want to go to any of these places. And there's like this one scene that I'll always remember is there is somebody trapped there who has clearly been trapped there for eons and is kind of growing into the lake and is becoming like a tree, and it's very, very strange. And then you start to wonder, are all the portals just people that have been stuck there and turned into trees? But her description of that is so creepy and scary, honestly.
Love that. Yeah.
It's really good. It's really, really good. And I find the dialogue in it is really fun. So like it's one of those horror books that's kind of fun, then it gets scary, and then it gets fun because they're dealing with how scared they are through humor, and that works for me. So yeah.
Yeah, from what I've read of Teen Kingfisher, she does humor very well, but I think where she really shines is in that kind of like atmosphere and how she makes the setting seem so real and everything I read from her.
Yeah.
So that seems to be what the Hollow Places does as well. So I've been meaning to read that one as well.
For sure. Yeah, she's got another one that I've wanted to try, and we just found out that she won the Hugo for another book that she wrote.
Nettle and Bone.
Nettle and Bone.
Oh yeah,
So she just won a Hugo, which is pretty cool.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I saw those two. Yeah, a couple of those books out in my library as well. Real quick, just want to say what's up to Jimmy in the chat, Britton, and if we did not say what's up to Uzman, what's up, Uzman? I definitely have a recommendation because this is kind of my first year jumping into horror, other than Uzumaki, which was, I thought, pretty. It was very well done. It was, obviously a different medium for me. Turning left to right, obviously, all those fucking jokes. But I thought the Uzumaki was done so well.
It really was.
I thought it was just how it drew the reader in, because when I grew up buying comics, I really didn't buy them for the story. I was more of an art person. I loved to draw the comic books that I bought. And when I got to Uzumaki, Ida really drew me into the story, and I found it just really cool the way he did that, which was with the structure of the book and how he kind of built that tension by the turn of the page. I'm sure they do that in Stephen King books and stuff like that, but the use of his paneling was just very well done. And to turn the page, when you turn that page, you're like, what the fuck am I going to lay my eyes on now?
Yeah, 100%. That Junji Ito probably has some of my favorite art, I think, of the manga that I've been sampling. And he does that. And I read Uzumaki digitally, and I think I missed out on some of that, because there really is a technique of knowing which page you're going to turn over to and what the reaction is going to be when you read it physically. And there's some iconic.
He did this in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
So this is something he would have had to have drawn out himself. This isn't something on the computer. I don't know. I'm not sure what he was doing back in the 90s. If this is something he really had to put his time into with that panel. It's not something you just throw on a computer like today, and they can really make that work for you.
Yeah. Uzumaki's a good show. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's one that's been on my to read for a while, but unlike usually everything else I read, that is one I want to actually have in my hands, because I feel like that will add to the experience.
Yeah. How's it going, guys? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, Usman, you reading anything spooky? What you reading on?
Not really. Right now I'm reading an arc for JC and Byrne, Partial Function. It's like a martial arts kind of thing.
Okay, cool.
But afterwards, I'm going to read The Last Argument of Kings, finish off First Law, and then Memories of Ice. That's my plan.
Shit, you're jumping into Memories of Ice already?
Yeah.
All right, I think I might hop on with you guys, because I'm taking my time with that series, and I'll be done Memories of Ice probably by the time you guys get done Memories of Ice, because it's just how I roll.
Nice.
I'll put a book down for decades. But that doesn't mean it wasn't good. It just means that I'm just feeling some different things, like spooky season. Do you have any recommendations, Usman, for something scary?
Do I have recommended? I am so uncultured compared to all you guys. I don't know. Fairy Unicorns. Check out.
Fucking right, dude. That is, I'm terrified of the Fairy Unicorns.
No, I honestly, I don't know. I haven't read any Stephen King yet. I haven't read any horror, really. The only book I've read with some elements of horror in it are Renia, by Carl Forshaw, which is like a dark fantasy mystery kind of thing. But yeah, I still have so much to read. I want to read all of Stephen King, even though I haven't read anything.
There's some Stephen King that you can certainly avoid.
Oh yeah, I've heard. Yeah, okay. Tell me about that, because I wouldn't know where to start or anything.
Well, like I haven't read any Stephen King in a long time, but I read a bunch as a teenager and as a kid, and I have fond memories of books like Thinner, but I don't think Thinner is a great book. Like if I were to reread that now, it would probably seem a bit stupid. Like the premise of Thinner is the book. Like if you're told the premise, I feel like you've read the book. Like it's just a gypsy puts a curse on him and he starts to lose weight, and he keeps losing weight until there's nothing left. And that's the book. That's it. And I found this scary when I was 12. But if I were to read it now, I think maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
That's fair. Is that one of his older stuff, or?
I think that's actually one of his Bachman books from the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a stack of Stephen King. They were all my dad's. My dad was into Stephen King in the 80s and 90s. So, yeah, I've read like short story collections and stuff as well. And those are always a mixed bag as well.
My favorite is still The Shining. Of the ones that I've read. Yeah. I thought that was just great from start to finish. I also really liked Pet Sematary.
Pet Sematary is my favorite.
Both of them were legitimately creepy. Yeah. Like, really unsettling.
Yeah, well, I do have the Dark Tower planned. I got a bunch of his random books. Like I picked up Cujo, I picked up It.
Nice.
Picked up The Institute. What is it? The Outsider. Like stuff
I
like
think
that.
Gerald's Game is an underrated Stephen King.
Gerald's Game, okay.
Gerald's Game.
I've seen that around.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump into Salem's Lot within the next, I would say, few weeks or so. I want to give, I don't know if I did this, Clive Barker a shout out. I did bring this up a little early in the chat, but Baron from Your Brain on Books recommended me Weave World by Clive Barker. This book was fantastic. This is it definitely mixed it's definitely mixed fantasy and horror elements, and it's about this this blanket that holds this world of magicians, and it's the blanket's been protected and now it's opened, and when the blanket opens, like the whole world opens around everything, like around the city of Liverpool. And that's where it's set and stuff. It was just really cool. And there's
Cool.
the people that come out of this blanket are very mythological and fantastic. It was just very interesting. The writing what has been compared to Stephen King, but I really haven't read any Stephen King horror to really make that comparison. But some of his writing was very beautiful. It was very atmospheric, even sexual at times. It was definitely a darker adult fantasy book, and I just it was awesome. It was something new. It was something different and fresh, and excuse me, I'm sorry. Clive Barker, I guess being I think he did Hellraiser. But I've heard that he also, Baron from Your Brain on Books has suggested Magica from him, as well as Damnation Game, I think. But Weave World Down, and I was impressed. I really liked that book. I wouldn't say it was a perfect book. It definitely had some pacing issues, in my opinion. There was certain things that happened where I was like, dude, we should have ended this book like probably 9 scenes ago. But that was just my personal preference and me wanting to see what happens at the end, probably.
Yeah, I've been meaning to jump into Clive Barker. I just haven't yet. So I'll probably start with the Weave World when I get. Is that a standalone?
It is.
Yes,
Okay,
it
thank
is a standalone, and I highly recommend Weave World for sure.
That sounds
But going back a little bit, Usman, if you want to jump on the Stephen King, it really depends on what you want out of his books because he does all kinds of stuff. The book I always recommend if someone wants to start with Stephen King, because I think it shows off the best of what he does and it has a good ending, is Misery. It's a tight, fast-paced book. It does everything he does well and has almost nothing that he's bad at. And it is just gross. It is gnarly. When I read that book for the first time in college, and I skipped class and I read it all day.
Wow.
Nice.
I really enjoy Misery. Same thing with Pet Sematary, because Pet Sematary I wouldn't even really describe as a horror book. I think a lot of the horror elements come in right at the end. But that book really showcases how good he is at all the side characters and the main character kind of slipping into sheer delusion.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, I don't think I
Misery?
could do Pet Cemetery.
It's
Not
not a
not
movie,
not
really.
as a kid growing up with my grandparents. I didn't have no pets. Now that I'm in my 40s and I could get pets, I bought them all. I got like 4 of them here. I got 2 cats, I got 2 dogs, and that's my biggest nightmare. Is one of
Yeah.
them either getting away or getting hurt or something. That's my biggest nightmare. So I don't think I could read Pet Cemetery. Maybe down the line, but no, not today.
Luckily, I read
Yeah.
that before having pets. But
I think I'd probably say in sheer body count, there are more people than pets, though.
yeah,
Yeah, I just have a feeling that if you two either like read Pet Cemetery, don't you think you're gonna wake up and Bilbo's just gonna be eyeballing you, right?
he kind of does that anyway.
Anyway, right?
Yeah.
Because Bilbo, he steals the breath, right?
Yeah,
Gets
yeah.
up real close, and you're like, "What are you doing?" It's
yeah.
like stealing your breath. You ever heard that myth that's what the cats are doing?
Hmm.
Yeah,
I think it's just
my
sniffing
wife
the face.
my wife believed that when we first got married. She was raised very conservative.
Uh-huh.
I was her introduction to the outside world largely. And when we were having our first child, I was talking about getting a cat. She's like, "You can't get cats around babies; they'll steal their breath." And I was like, "What?"
I've never heard
Wow.
that before.
No.
Yeah,
I had
it's
never
a
heard it
thing,
before,
you know?
and she was being serious.
I could see that being a thing. Cats stealing your it's funny. I live in an apartment with no pets allowed, unfortunately. I want a pet so bad.
I don't want to pay the extra rent for pets, so I don't.
Bro, I don't get one decent night's sleep. My dogs jump in my bed. One sleeps in my leg, the other sleeps here. Trust me, pets are sometimes overrated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bilbo has learned how to smack me with my own underwear. So I could be turned over, lying on my side, and I'll just feel sort of a claw on my back, and then he'll hook. He hooks his claw into my underwear and just goes, and it's fucking sore. Yeah, he knows how to get a reaction anyway.
Yeah, he's crafty. He pulls my hair as well.
He full on
which is-
smacks you, to be honest.
Yeah.
The whole-
Yeah.
Dude, I have one here, and it's funny because I read Beyond Redemption by Michael R. Fletcher, and it's about
I want to read
your
that one.
superpower is your mental illness, your delusions, right?
Mhm.
And I did this video about like my my family would be strong as fuck. I'd have Incredibles because my family were all a bunch of mentally ill members. I'd have a bunch of Incredibles. Anyway, my dog is even medicated. And dude, he like stares at the ground sometimes. I don't know. I wish I knew what was going through my dog's head sometimes.
Oh, that's
I wish they
one of
had
my
that
biggest wishes.
necklace. That necklace that they gave that
that poor fucker and up, you know, he
Yeah.
was always running after squirrels. So I could know, what the hell are you thinking, man? He's just staring. He's doing it right now. He's just staring at the fucking floor. What are you staring at?
That's one of my biggest wishes. I want to be able to know what he's thinking. I want to be able to communicate effectively with him. Although I think we communicate quite well now. But we have full-on conversations. Like, he knows by the tone of my voice that I'm asking him a question, and then he'll reply. But I just want to know what he's saying. I want to know what he's saying.
I think that's the best. I don't care what happens to me after we die. I just want to know what my fucking dog is saying.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
Yes.
the universe's biggest
I would
question.
love to plot shit with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Dude, you see that guy? Do you see that neighbor? Go shit on his lawn today. Okay. He drives way too fast in this neighborhood when my kids are outside. So anyway, so why don't we, pull it on back in? I don't have any questions at this time for anybody. Can anybody think of anything good to keep this conversation moving?
Well, I'll have to hop off here in a second, but I do want to recommend one more book before I go.
Awesome.
If you guys are into crime fiction at all, I recommend the crime horror noir, The Devil Takes You Home by Gabino Iglesias.
Taking note of that right now.
All right.
Yeah, so it follows a man. I'm telling you stuff that all happens in the first chapter. It follows a man who is his life is spiraling out of control because his young daughter dies of cancer, and he can't afford the medical bills. So he takes on jobs for the Mexican cartel as a hitman. And then he can do one more job where he has to cross the border, and then he's done. And then from there, it's just an odyssey of darkness and depravity. And this book has two of the single most disgusting, horrifying things I've ever read in my life. So,
okay,
That sounds great.
fantastic.
Yeah. No, it is wonderful. It's an excellent book. My favorite thing to do is go on Goodreads and read all the bad reviews for it, because people are horrified by the things that happen in the book.
What's
I
that called? The
enjoyed doing
Devil
that.
Takes You Home?
The Devil Takes You Home by Gabino Iglesias. So,
Cool. Got it. Nice.
excellent book.
Nice.
But I gotta go get my kids ready for this Halloween thing we're doing tonight. So I will catch you all later.
All right, man.
Nice.
Thanks
Great.
for stopping by, man.
Yeah, of course. I love chatting. We'll do it more soon.
Yes, definitely.
See you, dude.
See
See
ya.
you, Caleb.
All right, buddy. And then
Um,
there were three.
So, more horror recommendations. Let me see. I think if you're willing to try some comics, Gareth Ennis has a run on Hellblazer, which is John Constantine. That is very, very good. I wouldn't call it horror, but it's supernatural. It's got that vibe. There's demons and that kind of thing. And John Constantine is just a great character. So he's like I guess if you want to equate him to something that is popular on BookTube, he's like Harry Dresden, but a bit more of a chain smoker. He's got lung cancer. And he's from Liverpool, so he's got a Scouse accent, which I just enjoy. And Hellblazer. Gareth Ennis probably has the best run. That's the one that I enjoyed. And what else? There's a great modern comic now that is still sort of ongoing, called Something is Killing the Children. And it's about a monster hunter also. And this monster, or these monsters, ? Are eating children. around town, quite literally. And there's like several families of monster hunters, and we follow the House of Slaughter. It's literally the family name, and it's quite a fun book and some great art in it as well. So
And that was Something is Killing the Children, correct?
Something is Killing the Children. I've still only read volume 1, but they're quick reads.
I've heard that name a lot, Garth Ennis, in the comic world. Is he?
Mhm.
He does a lot, doesn't he? Because when I was looking into like the Punisher comics, he did a lot of those as well.
Yeah, he's probably the most famous writer on Punisher. He did 2 runs on Punisher. One was the sort of PG.
That one, yeah.
That's it. One was kind of the PG version of Punisher, and then he did a run on Punisher Max, which was a separate Marvel line of adult themed books. It was like Marvel Max. So they could curse, there could be extreme violence, and knowing the Punisher as a character, that is exactly what it is. Sometimes it got a bit repetitive, but I think the start of that run, especially, he sort of gets that character across really, really well. But yeah, Garth Ennis he's also famous for writing The Boys and Preacher, and yeah.
Wow,
He's
he
done
wrote
a
The
lot.
Boys.
Yeah.
I love The Boys. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love The Boys because they are that whole those writers are habitual line steppers. You're
Yeah.
just like, did I just witness what I just did? Did they just put this on television? I fucking love it. And I just, the character work is so good. Homelander is such, I mean, just the quintessential bad guy, but
Yeah.
not supposed to be the bad guy. I just love the writing is excellent within that show. It's just, I can't wait to see more from it.
I actually preferred the show to the comics, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
And I know that's a bit of a hot take in the comics community.
I'm sure that's hard to do too. I'm sure there's a lot of
Mhm.
people that there's a lot of comics you can't say that about, ever, if you can really think about it. Maybe Deadpool. I don't know, because those
Yeah.
movies were very well received, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, some of the X-Men as well, like some of those X-Men movies, First Class or Days of Future Past, those are taken from comics that are very popular, but not really my cup of tea. Those movies are great though. But yeah, The Boys, I find, and I think some of the problems I had some problems with like season 3 where it kind of became a meme. So it was kind of turning into what it's taken the piss out of by just like, oh, we just want to have another disgusting scene here so it can become an internet meme. But what the show is taking the piss out of is that kind of meme culture and glorifying that stuff. So I thought the 3rd season was a bit odd.
The
And
second season was more of that, right? That
yeah,
taking a stab at that culture, I believe.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
totally.
Third season, I think, kind of did stray from some more, those themes.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And to me, the comics were just sort of, how far can we push this? I'm gonna blatantly create stand-ins for all of the most famous superhero characters, and I'm just gonna turn each and every single one of them into an arsehole. And there's no oh, what is the woman's name? Starlight. She is in the comics, but she is not the heart of the story. You know, and I think in the show, she is the character that turns that story into something more profound because she's the real heart of it. And that's not really what I get from the comics. It's just everybody's just an asshole. So yeah. Oh, JD has got a recommendation: The Monster of Elandhaven. Let's type that in.
Anthology's Days of Utter Dread. Days of Utter Dread. Check that out. I also, for this this scary thing, picked up The Fisherman. I think it's John Lang. I can't remember it.
Fisherman Yeah, I think that sounds familiar.
Here it is. John Langan. 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 Definitely. I think because I put out that I enjoy fishing, somebody recommended this one to me. And I also said that I would like to get into horror. I'm not sure if it might have been Chattier that might have recommended this one to me. I do not remember, but somebody told me to get The Fisherman. You might like it. And I picked it up, and it's really cool. At first, I did not know it was going to be a horror book. I really thought it was just going to be a feel good, get how to deal with grief through fishing, and that's how it did start. And then all of a sudden, this guy makes a trip to this Dutchman's Creek that is well known because of certain things that happened back in the day, spiritual crazy shit that happened back in the day with this creek. And he starts investigating the creek, and it becomes this horror story. And that is an excellent book, in my opinion. I am getting very close to the end, and I can already tell you that, in my opinion, it's definitely a 4-star book at least. Could be a 5-star. Let's see if the ending lands on that one. But again, that would be the Fisherman by John Langan.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
I think we've lined up the Troop for Halloween week. I think we want to fit that in this week.
By Nick Cutter.
Yes.
I think
before you guys came on, Caleb was cuttering that book up. I don't think he was the biggest fan of it, but
Okay.
interesting.
But he did say that the writing was definitely. I think there was something about it that bothered him. But,
okay. Yeah, I kind of want to read it because I want to push myself, because I'm not hugely into horror, like in general. But in the last couple of years, I've picked it up a little bit more and come to appreciate it, especially with books, I think. Well, movies as well, but movies can be scarier more easily with like the score and like how it's filmed and the camera work and stuff like that. Whereas with novels, I think it's generally more unsettling than scary, the more you've read, especially. So I think because I've heard that the Troop is body horror, and I am not sure if that's something that I can deal with very well. So I want to push myself and see if I can read it, or if that might be something that is, really creepy and unsettling, and it's too much. So that's why I'm trying it for Halloween week. So I shall report back, and I might hate it, but that's a possibility. We'll see.
So some body horror there in Darkness that comes before there at the end, correct?
Yeah.
I think that's where that's that one horror element that Baker kind of threw in there. After
Does
all,
that have anything to do with the Woody Harrelson bird?
God, that's.
Oh, is that who you picture on the bird?
Yeah.
Is Woody? But Woody in what movie?
Am
I too loud? I'm always too
loud. In War for the Planet of the Apes, because he's scary in that.
Yeah.
You know him just sort of shaving his head with the knife?
Yeah.
Just
all right.
imagine the bird whipping out a little You know, I'm looking at you.
I pictured an older man with like you know, a third chin that just came down to here, beady baby eyes, you know, and then you know, a crow, a little crow body, you know.
I kind of picture like a baby head, but the
Yeah.
face of an adult in the baby head.
Yes. Uh-huh, uh-huh. But mine
That's
had
great.
like was like wrinkled though, and had like this, you know, picture my beard just being a whole third chin that had like a wart on it or something. You know, I added my own little thing in there. In the
Usman,
description up here.
have you read The Darkness That Comes Before?
I have not, and I was supposed to join you guys for that buddy read, but I had to drop off because Malazan and like First Law,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it
I
was
just
That's
want
fair.
I just want to
Yeah.
reassure you that everything that we're talking about is actually in that book.
yeah. Oh, I've heard a lot about that, and it's actually what I'm really really looking forward to. But yeah, I don't I don't even know if I'll be ready. That's from
Mm.
everything I've heard about it. Sounds wild.
When
I was
that weird bird showed up, I had to read it again because I was like,
that part was
there's no
so
way.
it was tough, right? That whole scene, right? There were
Yeah.
so many things that you had because I, unfortunate when it comes to my reading, I'm a control freak. And what I mean by a control freak is I want that whole scene. I want to
Mhm.
know what the author, you know, had up here. I want my up here to be his same, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that scene when that he came, that bird showed up, I had to read it 5 times over again.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much that comes not out of nowhere, but that you're just not expecting.
Yes.
The, that my brain was still trying to process how to picture this creepy, bald human head bird that I just couldn't comprehend what was happening afterwards. It's like, okay, hold on, let's stop. Let's go back. Yeah, that was
I
something.
think horror is definitely does that for us because
Hmm.
for readers that enjoy that, that, seeing, trying to see what the author sees.
Yeah.
And, when it comes to horror and fantasy, it's just, there's just so many avenues to go. And when we read something, I constantly find myself reading something in horror and fantasy, like, what the fuck? And just like going back and did I just did read that correctly? Like
Hmm.
everything was cool, and now there's wings sprouting out of this dude's ass. Just this crazy thing that throws you off that you just have to read over again. And I feel that horror, does that really well, especially when you mix it with fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and showing you what I really enjoy about horror is when it does get surreal to the point where, like, I'm not sure if this author is trying to tell me something with this specific weirdness, but if they are, maybe I'll figure it out. And I just can't help but think about it and really try to. It forces you to come up with an interpretation when things get that surreal in horror. Um, and like The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher has several scenes where I'm not sure what it is you're trying to tell me, but I'm going to think about this scene for a while and try to come up with something, you know? And I think I like that most about horror. And then horror movies, I think I watch those for a different reason, to be honest. Um, and the horror movies that I like are the ones that are really saying something, but you can kind of get it, you know. And then when the horror novel leaves it all up to your imagination, it yeah, I don't know. I like doing that extra bit of work, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Hmm.
But yeah, T. Kingfisher has stuck in my head, and also
Stephen Graham Jones.
Stephen Graham Jones, yeah. The Only Good Indians, which is another surreal story. Kind of, it's about a elk hunt, where three Native American friends go out on an elk hunt, and do something wrong, unethical, and this elk starts hunting them, and it can get very, very surreal and very creepy, and the writing style is very unique, and I wasn't sure if I was liking it at the start, but now it's been like a year and I am still thinking about it. Yeah, that's a great one, actually. It's The Only Good Indians. Chadi is saying she doesn't picture things at all. She relies on the description. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that's very common. When that I found. At least I believe Jimmy says he has problems, picturing descriptions in his head. I've had a lot of people, say that becomes an issue. I would. Sometimes I wish I could just read over something, but unfortunately, I'm just such a freaking control freak that I'll read like the line a couple times over and over, just so I try to get that good description, so I can remember, that scene.
Yeah, I'm
And
the
I
same.
do, and I think I do that with not just the horror scenes, but all the great scenes that I read in books. If we're talking about Deadhouse Gates, there are two really well written scenes at the end of those books that I just had to read constantly, just because I didn't want to forget them.
Yeah.
I think you're a bit like that as well. You'll
Yeah.
need to.
I think this is super interesting to hear how other people picture things, or what other people see while they're reading. Because I would be more on the side of needing to and wanting to picture everything as accurately as possible. And then sometimes it works seamlessly and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes the images in my head get away from me and start doing weird stuff that I don't want them to do. And you need to try to rein it in. And it's really difficult to do. And it shouldn't be, because it's your head picturing things. And then I get really frustrated and I need to go back a couple of pages to kind of reset the scene. Does that happen to you?
Yes, for me, yeah, and many times when I'm reading, I'll come up with descriptions or images in my head, and a lot of times it won't be the right one, because then I'll read something else like, oh, it's actually like this. So I'll have to reframe my image of it first before I continue reading. Or sometimes I'm just like, no, you know what? I like my version better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'm a bit like that. If there's enough atmosphere in the writing, I can just sort of go with the flow. I don't need to picture everything. But if there's an especially cool description, I may not picture it exactly the way they're saying it, but I'll latch on to that and create one in my own mind. And quite often the one that I want to picture will be the thing that I'm projecting onto it, if that makes sense. There's a lot of horror elements in the Broken Empire trilogy, and I project my own, like, I form the film in my mind. I'm a very visual person. I really like cinema. So
Yes.
I can see things in my mind the way I would want to make them as a film. Weirdly. And I like that with like dark fantasy and horror, especially because I build this aesthetic in my mind. And even if the description isn't too vivid, I'll make it vivid and I'll go with the flow, you know? But yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought about how other people do that. I'm
Now,
also okay with like going with the flow if I don't know what I'm supposed to be picturing. because I fill in the
Yeah, I'm
blanks.
not okay with that.
That-
Yeah, that's
But that's what you have to do with Baker, at least. I
Yeah.
feel there is a lot of fill in the blank with Baker.
yeah.
But what an interesting topic to what do we all picture in our minds? And how differently are those pictures from each other? And you can go down the rabbit hole with that shit. Culture is gonna affect that. Like,
Yeah.
we have one person that could just read something that could, just because of their upbringing, believe a certain person looks this way in the book, and maybe it's not described, the entire time. And this is just a very interesting topic that I'm sure you could really go down the rabbit hole with. And
For sure.
Yeah.
for what we perceive in our heads, as opposed, and the differences, different perceptions, across boundaries, whatever.
And it probably depends on the genre and the type of book as well. Like I think horror is quite a descriptive genre. It relies on imagery, whereas maybe something like your standard thriller won't rely on that kind of description or scene setting. It will rely, because I guess it's more realistic. It's the real world. You know what you're picturing. And these otherworldly genres will rely on building that aesthetic in your mind. So it's maybe also the book demanding it of you, rather than, well, I guess then also the variables of, what your background is, what it is you're into. Like, I like cinema, I like film, I like cinematography. I don't necessarily like photography, but I like the motion of that. So I do that in my mind when I'm reading stuff
Weird.
like
You
that.
like cinematography, but you don't like photography?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it's odd. Because I did multimedia in college.
And
So
being
we did,
somebody that enjoys reading the
yeah,
description of things, I would
yeah,
think you would, have an affinity towards the still photo.
yeah. No, I don't know why it is. Like, I
Okay.
did multimedia in college. I have a degree in that,
Mhm.
and what I like is the motion art, I guess. Even paintings. Like, I'm not that into what is traditional art. I like it, sure, but there's something about the motion that I like, and it is as well with comics. Um, the art to me is more flowy,
Mhm.
so there's a movement to it, so I like it. Um, but photography, I was never very good at in college, and I don't know why that is. But I was better at piecing several photographs together to create a sequential bit of art. Then yeah, sure, I like photography.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's just that mood that it creates. It works better for me in film,
Okay.
and I create that film in my mind when I'm reading, I think. With certain things, not with everything. But yeah.
I suppose it's a little more atmospheric, or you can immerse yourself in several photos, or like a comic style thing. I get that. I understand.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Atmosphere is the big thing.
Hmm.
How is the manga reading going?
How is the manga reading going?
Should I say? So I've been very hesitant to make a video because I did finish the Golden Age arc in Berserk, and I have opinions about how certain things are handled that I'm not sure I really want to invite that discussion on
That
channel.
that negativity, is that what you think?
Yeah,
There's going to be some throwdowns in the comments. Is that what you're
yeah,
saying?
yeah. I don't really want to invite that, to be honest, because there is a lot about Berserk that I really, really like, that I maybe even love, and there is an event that happens at the end of Golden Age that I think is really impactful and very important to the story. But I think it's devalued by a lot of unnecessary, gratuitous things that happen before, and now I've learned continue to happen afterwards, that completely devalue that for me, for my own personal experience with that story. And yeah, so I have my issues with Berserk because I think in my own experience, it's sort of, he shoots himself in the foot with what he's saying, almost, by stepping over the line too much too often, rather than having those one or two or potentially even three really, really impactful scenes. I'm talking around the thing.
Yeah, I can sense it. Trust me.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm not sure if I want to make a video about it actually. But
Hey, if you don't, you don't, man.
yeah,
Do what you
but
want to do.
I'm really enjoying Monster by Naoki Urasawa. That's really good. It's
I have
really, really good.
volume 2 next to the nightstand. I just picked it up, and yeah, so this is definitely something that's new for me as well, other than the medium of manga, comics, but that type of genre of comic. We're dealing
Yeah.
with a thriller. Whereas again, when I started, comics, I was in it for the art. And now I am, though the art is exceptional. It's nothing, Uzumaki-ish. It's nothing crazy, but it serves a purpose. It's clean. With
Yeah, clean
I believe
as
it's clean with every panel, right?
Yeah.
You're not getting too convoluted panels that you see in manga sometimes. But it was something new, and I felt the tension within, the first book of Monster, and I'm really enjoying it. And I'll definitely continue. But definitely one manga I'm going to support and tell people to get would be Doro Hidoro, or I don't think I'm
Yeah.
saying that correctly, but that is an exceptional manga, and I would suggest some folks go check it out as well. I'm about 14 in, I believe, and it's definitely hooked.
Yeah, I've got that on the list. I want to try that one, I think. You mentioned that one to me before. That sounds cool. So I'll definitely try that. I think I will keep going with Monster. I'll probably keep going with Vinland, although Vinland feels a bit more like standard. It's fine. And I think I'm done with Berserk.
Whoa.
For me, I'm completely honest. I think I'm good.
Good for you. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. If that's how you're feeling, that's how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Good.
Actually,
I
Carlos,
had the first one.
sorry, Carlos. I just wanted to hear your thoughts again on Vinland Saga. Explain that to me, because I've heard a lot about it, and I'm unsure. But if you said it seems a little standard, I want to hear more about that. What do you mean?
It's okay. Like it's a young hero joins a mercenary band. There's adventure, there's war. It's sort of your typical stuff that you enjoy. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
It's perfectly good.
Like it's fun,
Nothing
but
really like profound.
Seems like
or,
it's is
out
it a
of the box.
Faithful and the Fallen? It is very Viking-ish, correct?
It is. So it's historical fiction. So it's
Icelandic
yeah.
manga, correct?
Yeah. I just so far and I haven't read that much of it. I think I've only read 3 volumes, or maybe 2. I can't remember. But so far it's just quite, I don't know. Yeah, it's there.
Like
It's a
It's
good
there,
time.
you
a
know,
fun thing,
it's totally there.
Yeah.
a fun ride.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
think I know what you mean. Yeah.
if you wanna sit down and enjoy yourself for an hour or whatever it will take to read a volume, maybe an hour and a half, it's
Mhm.
not that difficult to read. It's fun.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
So I just
Gotcha.
jumped into my my streaming services that I have, and I just started looking up manga, since I became a booktuber, because I really didn't get into the genre.
Mhm.
And I looked up, all the manga, videos, cartoons that God, am I gonna get yelled at? Did I call it a cartoon? Are people gonna be pissed?
Yeah, Dan,
Yeah.
you need to sort that shit out. It's an
All right.
anime.
It's probably YouTube will fucking find me, I bet.
Yeah.
All right. And I threw an F-bomb in there, so they can add that to the fine too. So anyway, so I started watching them, and I just was like, the manga humor is something that irks me. It just rubs me the wrong way. All right. But okay, I'll deal with it. I'll get out that. I'll roll over it and stuff. And I started Vinland Saga, and I started the first episode, and I thought it was okay. It was okay,
Mhm.
but I haven't really. I started Chainsaw Man, which was very cool at first, but it was getting a bit juvenile. I would say with the humor, and I couldn't really run from it. In Chainsaw Man, the dude's motives are all centered around something that it just throws me off. But I Doro Hidoro was the best manga that I picked up lately, and I would say Monster as well. And yeah, dude, there's so much stuff out there about Berserk.
Mm.
And there's some fans, man, out there, and I just have a sense that Carlos is going to read One Piece and DNF it, and he's going to be in a lot of fucking trouble.
That'll be the end.
I'm
That'll be
kidding.
the end of story 2.
Yeah.
Be the end,
That'll be it.
right?
With a nail
Tread
in the coffin.
carefully.
Yeah.
Tread carefully, Carlos, please.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I have
Okay, so-
I have hot takes about comics and stuff as well, but I haven't really dared to get into all of that on the channel. But I know just from being in comics groups and circles on social media that it can get intense when you criticize something that people adore.
Well,
Especially with these kinds of things. And I'm not saying that everybody, I made one manga video and it's the most successful video we have on the channel. And people have been really nice. People have been really, really nice. I just worry if I criticize something that people love to that level. I would want to be careful about how I do that. And
Yeah.
also because it's such a sensitive topic, the theme that I have an issue with is such a sensitive, heavy
Is a
topic.
similar reason why I was nervous about uploading the Baker review.
Same exact
Yeah.
theme. Yeah.
I think we definitely know what you're
Yeah.
referring to with
Yeah.
even Berserk. I've read I'm into the first volume. I'm not really that far, but I can sense that I can feel that vibe coming with that type of within that story for sure.
Mhm.
see, I don't mind negative reviews or discussions as long as you're explaining yourself and giving good reasons as to why you believe something. What I don't like is people who just say, "Oh, it was shit," and then just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
had so many people have done that, and I'm like, oh well, let's just not continue this conversation. But
Yeah.
But as long as you're giving, like, I've seen negative reviews and stuff of stuff that I love, but they've explained their point very well and why it was that way for them. So at the end of the day, I'm just like, you know what, that's fair, and that's it. But I get that many people are not like that. So yeah.
It is the internet, and we're headed we're heading in the wrong direction, folks, in more ways than seven. Okay, it's not just the internet, all right, but yeah. Yeah, I'm enjoying manga right now. I can't wait to jump into a little more. Maybe I'll get a few more volumes of Berserk, and we'll see. But yeah, this should be a place we can freely express ourselves. Listen, Malzahn a tough community too. The only community that I haven't run into a bunch of tough people, surprisingly, is the R. Scott Baker community.
Yeah.
Nobody really has, went at me, and I'm not the most brilliant and philosophical person. I had to look up who Nietzsche was when I read that, and nobody's ever called me an idiot or anything
Yeah.
like that. They're very kind. There's one guy in there in the Baker community. I see him everywhere, always, encouraging people to read Baker. He's very nice about it. But yeah, the communities can get crazy, and they have. And unfortunately, I think it's taken tolls on some people. I think there's been a recent trend of booktubers kind of laying back a little bit. I'm seeing a few, and that's all right. I never promised anybody a schedule. I do this when I like and when I want. I think even Jimmy touched on it. He's just not down to do reviews anymore. And, I totally felt that sometimes. I'm just not, sometimes I'm not down to do anything anymore, and especially when this season comes along, people are, daylight savings is happening around here in the East Coast. Oh, it's so fucking depressing.
100%.
That's why give me a book, take me fucking out of here. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's a horror book would be perfect. But I think I'm probably going to be wrapping this up in a little bit. I did about 2 hours, and I know it's late over near you guys, and you could be falling asleep soon. But upon departure, is there anything you'd like to say? Any recommendations you have for people? Do you have any costumes? Is that a thing where you guys are? If not,
Yeah.
it's cool. Do you dress up for anything else? But listen, you don't drop any crazy secrets on this channel that you dress up for something crazy. So keep it PG. Go ahead. Somebody jump on and give us some parting words.
I wanna leave you with a recommendation, since we were talking about art in comics, and because I have been realizing lately, especially trying some manga as well. I haven't tried as much, but still, how important art is to me reading comics. It is a huge part of the storytelling and of the appeal of comics or manga, and why is the story being told visually. So the visual part of it is important. And if the art doesn't appeal to me, it's a huge hindrance in me enjoying it. So I want to leave you with Monstrous by Marjorie Liu, which has amazing art by Sana Takeda is her name, I think.
Yeah.
And it's an epic fantasy comic published by Image. And the art is actually quite like East Asian inspired. And it's like a steampunk epic fantasy with monsters and dead gods and stuff like that, and it's really, really fun, and the art is stunning. Like, it takes a while to get into the world, and it was the first time I read an epic fantasy in that format, in that medium, so it took a while to get used to the world building in that way, but it's stunning.
Cool.
Pretty worth it.
I was actually trying to look it up in my library, but it didn't come. It was monstrous, right?
Monstrous.
Okay, cool.
I'll leave you with another comic recommendation then for spooky season by Joe Hill, so the son of Stephen King. I know he's written a lot of novels as well, like Horns. I really like Horns.
I heard of him as a book writer. Okay.
My favorite thing that he has done is actually a comic book series. It's about 30, 40 issues. It's done. It's finished. And it's called Lock and Key. You can get them all in trade paperbacks. I think there's
I've run into Lock and Key at my library. It's awesome.
It's really
okay.
good. Really good.
Excellent.
A lot of heart. It's a nice twist on the haunted house or the haunted family generational drama thing.
Is that's a Netflix show? Is that not? Am I way off or no? Yes,
it
it
is. It is also a Netflix show. I did
Okay.
not like the show at all. I don't think it did the books any justice, to be honest.
Okay.
But yeah, I would highly recommend the comics. They're really, really good.
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
How about
I
you?
don't really have many recs. I came here for the recommendations, so I got a lot.
Yeah, you got a whole bunch, brother, and so did I. Because listen, I came here as well for some recommendations. But listen, why don't you just recommend me something? Give me something.
Well,
I don't care your favorite.
one thing,
you got a good recipe or something.
Well, I'm not much of a cook, but one book I can definitely recommend. It's got a blending of it's fantasy, but it's like a dark fantasy. It's got a blend of horror. It's got a blend of mystery. It does everything so well. It was a 5-star read for me. That, like I mentioned, that was Renia by Carl Forshaw. It's a self-pub dark fantasy, part of a much larger series. But yeah, and some beautiful artwork. So check out Renia for sure.
Check that.
Renia.
Okay.
Yeah.
But considering how awful of a speller I am, and I swear to God, I spelled it before you did, and I did it correctly. So I'm giving myself a star on that. That's going.
Awesome.
It's going on my fridge. All right, guys. I really appreciate you guys stopping by with me and hanging out for about 2 hours now, discussing books. Any big things you guys got coming up in the future? On the channel or up with you guys? Nothing.
We'll upload when we upload.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Same.
Find us on StoryTube. We'll upload whenever.
We'll have Carlos's hot takes on Berserk.
Yes, please.
I don't know.
Yeah, bars
All right,
and books,
again, thanks.
reviews.
Thanks to Caleb, Usmand, Yolanda Carlos, my dogs. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Amanda Britton, Epic, thanks for stopping by, guys. Sorry, I am ending it after the 2-hour mark because, I got things to do and things to read at this time. I appreciate everybody again for stopping by. Hopefully we can do this again soon. So,
100%.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dan.
Definitely.
Later, guys.